Donald Trump's pardons of both the leader of the Proud Boys and the founder of the Oathkeepers, Enrique Tarrio and Stuart Rhodes, respectively, who, by the way, were also sentenced to 22 years in prison and 18 years in prison, respectively. His pardon of these two specific individuals has now caused these two men to call for, quote, retribution against the prosecutors who put them behind bars. Now, in statements that these men have made either to the press or on podcasts or whatever, they imply that this so-called retribution comes in the form of prosecuting the prosecutors, right? They're saying, we hope Kash Patel goes after these people. Tarrio actually went as far as to accuse them of suborning perjury, which I'm surprised he knows that term. But I can tell you, based on every available piece of evidence, none of that happened. Let me read this to you. Tarrio, in speaking with Steve Bannon on his podcast, spoke about seeking vengeance against those who put him and his allies behind bars. Mr. Tarrio then began a sustained attack on the criminal trial in federal district court in Washington, where he and three of his lieutenants were found guilty of sedition, a crime that requires prosecutors to prove that defendants used violent force against the government. The Proud Boys played a central role on January 6, both in confronting the police at the Capitol and in encouraging other rioters to breach police lines. While Mr. Tarrio was not in Washington that day, prosecutors say he helped prepare his compatriots for street fights and remained in touch with them while the mob, with the Proud Boys in the lead, overran the Capitol. In his first hours of freedom, he also focused on seeking vengeance against those who investigated and prosecuted the events of January 6th. Now it's our turn, he declared. The people who did this, they need to feel the heat, they need to be put behind bars, and they need to be prosecuted. Rhodes, on the other hand, also made comments after his release showing his lack of contrition and desire for payback when he showed up Tuesday afternoon outside a local jail. When asked if he had any regrets, Rhodes said he had none because we did the right thing. He spoke about how he hoped Kash Patel would be confirmed as FBI director, then get in there and clean house, and made baseless accusations that the prosecutors in his case broke the law. What has to happen first, said Rose, is that prosecutors who suborned perjury, that's a crime, need to be prosecuted for their crimes. So, my apologies, I had initially attributed that to Tarrio, but it was in fact Rhodes who had said that. So, just to clear that up, Rhodes said it, not Tarrio. All right, so here's the thing. Rhodes is alleging that these prosecutors do in fact need to be prosecuted because he says they suborned perjury, which means basically they encourage people to lie under oath in order to secure a conviction. Again, there is no evidence to suggest that any of that happened. I'm not 100% familiar with what all took place during this trial, but there have been no reports on it. If you search for it on the internet, through news sites, you're not going to find anything on it because there's nothing to suggest that. But here's the problem. What happens when these prosecutors do not get prosecuted, right? Because they're not going to be, because for the most part, they actually can't be, unless you were to uncover some massive illegal scheme, which again is simply not going to exist. They were just using the available evidence. What do these folks do, who we know can become violent at the drop of a hat? What do they do when the people they want retribution against do not get prosecuted? That's the scary thought. Are they going to come after these people? Do we need to have these prosecutors in protective custody? Do we need to have, cops out there kind of trailing the Proud Boys and Oathkeepers? God knows they've got good connections with them. But this is a scary thought. And for the record, they're not the only two out there that have promised some kind of retribution. Others, Jacob Chansley, the QAnon shaman, announced, when he was pardoned, even though he was already out of jail, he said, I'm going to go buy some guns. That's what he announced. I'm going to go buy guns. These people should never have been pardoned. This is an absolute disaster waiting to happen. There are targets on the backs of far too many people right now, and they are living in fear about what these pardoned criminals could do to them. Thanks for watching today, everybody. And don't forget, if you're not already, please do subscribe to this channel. We have fresh content going up every single day, and I would really hate for you to miss out on that. And speaking of missing out, if you're not following me across all other social media outlets, then get on it. You can follow the links in the description of this video.